guys, I'm John P, and on today's episode of Geek Beat, we sweat like pigs and dissect my $30,000 solar panel installation. Some of you may recall me telling you many months ago that I took the plunge and decided to try and take my home off the grid using solar power. So in this episode, we're going to examine just about every detail I can cram into a reasonably watchable episode. So when I was first thinking about going solar, the first two questions that came to mind were how much and what's the payback period? Can I even get solar? If I can get solar, where am I going to put it? An engineer came to actually climb up on the roof, take measurements, inspect to see if we have visibility to the south, and use this funky solar pathfinder device to determine the times of day that particular areas would be shaded. Question number 2, how much solar do you need? You're pretty much on your own for this decision. In our case, there was an upper limit because we were going for a partial rebate and it maxed out at 10 kilowatts. So to some extent, figuring out what you need is narrowed down by how much room you have and the cost. But you also need to take a look at your previous year's electric bills, find out what your electric rates are, research what the projected generation will be for the size of the system you're thinking about. So for an average home of like 2,000 square feet, you could probably get off the grid with 6 to 7 kilowatts. Question number 4, how long does it take to install it? The good news is it only took about 2 full days. Big question, how much does it cost? The cost of the actual system probably won't vary that much from place to place, but there are a lot of options and there are different incentives from place to place. In my case, our system cost almost exactly $30,000 and we got a 10 kilowatt system. If you were to piece it all out, probably around 60% of the cost is just the hardware. And believe me, the labor was worth it. You should have seen all the equipment and people it took to get the job done. They had a machine that lifted the panels and tons of bricks up onto the roof. They all had to be carried over there and installed, plus the framework for holding the panels had to be built on the roof and all the electrical work had to be done. However, if you can afford to do it, it is also a form of insurance against the potential of skyrocketing energy prices. Okay. So now we're going to head over to the house and I'll show you how it's all actually put together. Okay guys, welcome to the roof. This is what a 10 kilowatt system looks like. Okay, I lied. It's actually about 9.75. The reason why is we have 39 solar panels and each one produces 250 watts of direct current. Now, you might say, why not go ahead and make it 40 and do a full 10K? We're going to talk about that when we get downstairs to look at another part of the system. But the basic reason is because of the type of system we bought, these panels have to be divided into 3 equal strings. So 13 times 3 is 39. That's why we've got 39 panels. What happened is, when we were taking a look at the roof, they laid everything out to figure out also how many panels we could fit. And you'll notice, if you look right over here, there's a gap. Well, the reason for this gap is simple, and you can see it right here. It's the shadow from this exhaust tube. Believe it or not, that one little shadow prevents putting a solar panel here. Heh. Who knew? I was surprised when I looked at the performance of the system, how big of a difference just a little bit of shade can make, which is why this roof in particular was perfect for a solar array, because as you'll notice, it's completely flat and the trees around all the edges are far enough back that there's never any shadow. In fact, the only shadow we get are from these tubes and from the chimney. So we had to keep the solar panels a little bit away from the chimney. Now, let's talk about how the system goes together. First of all, this system is what's called a ballasted system. That means it is not bolted to the roof. The last thing we wanted was to have hundreds of screws in our roof, which could, on a flat roof especially, could cause problems down the road. So instead, this system uses a series of rubber pads. If you look down here, you'll see there's like a rubber pad underneath railing. They built the whole railing first, then they came in, dropped the solar panels on, and finally put these ordinary little concrete paver kind of stones up here for weight. There's about 4,000 pounds worth of ballasting, which will make this system be able to withstand our Texas winds even up to like 90 miles an hour. So what happens is, let's say we needed to do some service or there was some damage to part of the array. We would shut off whichever string we need to, and they're labeled 1, 2, and 3. So if I wanted to replace one of the solar panels on this first string, we'd shut it down, we'd disconnect things, do the change out, and then turn it back on. Now from here, they run through this conduit down here where it penetrates the roof and goes into the wall and down into the garage where the inverter is. Let's go take a look. All right, guys. Up on the roof, we're doing nothing but generating lots of direct current, DC. However, the house consumes AC current. So we need to be able to take the DC and convert it into AC. And that is where the Sunny Boy box comes in. This is a power inverter, and it basically takes the power and feeds it right into this power breaker. And you can see right here, we've got one that says solar PV. So remember, I said there are multiple ways to turn this system off. If I flip this breaker, it's off. There's also a shut-off valve right here. If I flip this thing off, it's off. And then there's the ones up on the roof. So there's a lot of safety built into the system. One thing I really like about this particular inverter is, this is funny, you can read the type of data that you're getting from it here. And if you look right here, it shows a knuckle tapping. That's because if you tap it, it changes its display every time you tap it. Okay, there's two other little things I want to show you. One, hidden behind this cabinet is our Sunny Web box. This is actually taking, it's got connectivity into the Sunny Boy, and it's taking data from it, and then it is presenting that to the statistics for us. So we get all of our reports and stuff on the web from this device, taking it, pushing them up to the website. That's one thing. There's one other component which goes in down here. We've got to go outside the other side of the wall to see it. All right, we do have an electric meter coming to the house. However, we also have our own electric meter for what we're generating at the house, and that is this box. So you can see that it's generated 2,808 kilowatt hours. And we have yet another power switch where we can shut things off here. I think they built enough safety into the system. The question is it all worth it? In our case, this system is feeding about 2/3 of our energy needs. So the ROI for the whole thing is about, I don't know, let's say 10 years. Yeah, for us, it was worth it. I'm glad we did it, especially if energy prices were to go nuts or anything like that. We're kind of insured against that. Plus, we still can fail back over to the existing grid. So, the question is whether you've got the cash to pony up to make it happen up front.